I saw that Mission Impossible Fallout movie a little while ago, and it was really good. But you don't really need me to tell you that since there are already a million other videos on YouTube expressing that opinion. So why the heck am I here? Well, I don't want to talk about the stunt work or the choreography or the photography, special effects, editing, soundtrack, any of that stuff. No, in a shocking twist so stunning that I myself can hardly believe it, I want to talk about the characters and the script. Because of all of the unexpected thrills and chills of Fallout, I think the thing that really caught me off guard was that they actually gave a crap about their characters this time. That just isn't how these picture shows usually go down. And I want to be clear, I'm saying that as someone who enjoys these movies. You can break the Mission Impossible film series into two different halves. You've got the first three movies, which are kind of all over the place, with each one trying to do its own unique thing, but I'd say that each movie is fairly successful at doing what it individually set out to do. So, in other words, you could say that for each film, you know.
Mission accomplished!
Now, there are some people out there who will try and tell you that Mission Impossible 2 is a bad movie. These people are insane. And then you've got the back three films, which are mostly consistent in terms of tone and style. But one thing that's consistent across all of these movies is that they aren't really about anything. And I mean, you know, that's fine. These are well-made action thriller movies. They don't gotta be all deep and thought-provoking. They only expect you to care about these characters insofar as the audience wants the heroes to succeed and they want the bad guys to fail. So the heroes are likable and sympathetic, and that's really all we need out of them for these flicks to get the job done. I wouldn't exactly describe Mission Impossible Fallout as deep or thought-provoking either, but it's about a little bit of something. It's got, you know, some themes and stuff, which is not really typical of these types of summer thrillers or for this franchise. Rogue Nation had the Ilsa character, and she was probably the most nuanced or interesting character to show up in the series so far. And I gotta be clear when I say this, because I like Rogue Nation a lot, and I liked Ilsa's character a lot, but saying that that was the deepest that this franchise had ever gotten really wasn't saying too much. But Mission Impossible Fallout actually stars one character I found to be really engaging and who elevated the movie thematically a little bit. Now sit down, brace yourselves for this. It was Ethan Hunt. Yeah, Ethan Hunt, AKA Tom Cruise, playing slightly crazier Tom Cruise. Or maybe slightly less crazy. These metrics are really hard to compare directly. Across the previous 5 films in this franchise, Ethan Hunt consistently got the job done in terms of being a likable protagonist that we could follow throughout an action movie, but I wouldn't have ever called him interesting. So what happened? Well, I don't really know what the heck happened. I guess Christopher McQuarrie just decided to go above and beyond the call on this one. I remember watching the trailers for this movie and hearing dialogue like this.
And the blood will be on your hands.
And I just kinda auto-deleted it from my brain. This is the kind of stuff that you always hear in trailers for movies like this. Dialogue that's supposed to make it sound like this movie is gonna be super dramatic and personal for the hero, and it's almost always nothing noteworthy. I was getting serious, "It was me, James," flashbacks every time that I heard this line. But no, as it turns out, that line actually meant something this time around. Literally, the entire plot of the film happens because the hero screws up right at the beginning. The hypothetical blood actually is on Ethan's proverbial hands. Instead of launching us into an action sequence or a mission briefing, this movie actually kicks off with a dream sequence of all things, showing us how Ethan feels guilty about dragging his ex-wife Julia into a web of espionage and lies. Right after that, Ethan allows some bad guys to escape with enriched plutonium, even though he could have very easily secured the plutonium himself, because he got distracted trying to save his teammates as opposed to escaping with the cores and accomplishing the mission. In all of the other Mission Impossible movies, Ethan has a hard time simply because of the insurmountable odds that he's facing. He's gotta fight like a bajillion dudes and deactivate bombs inside of his own skull. Fallout decided to make the source of Ethan's difficulties throughout the film on a scene-by-scene level a lot more specific and personal. Over and over again throughout this movie, Ethan makes situations more difficult for himself and his team because he's a nice guy. If Ethan had just let his team die in the opening, the movie would have been over. He would have had the plutonium, no threat, let's call it a day. Imagine my shock and surprise to discover that this action movie subtitle actually means something. What's a quantum of solace? What's a ghost protocol? No, this entire movie is the fallout of a decision that Ethan makes in the first scene. I can't believe my eyes. And this is kind of the theme of the entire movie. It keeps coming up over and over again. Ethan, being a nice guy, actively makes his job more difficult. Later on in the movie, the good guys are undercover as bad guys and they've gotta steal a thing. The real bad guys have a plan to get the thing. But Ethan devises a way riskier plan that puts himself in much greater danger and risks blowing his cover with the real bad guys, all because he wants to avoid killing innocent people. I could honestly be here all day talking about almost every single scene in this movie and how it ties back into this theme somehow, especially with the inclusion of Henry Cavill's character, who kinda serves as Ethan's foil throughout most of the movie. This is a guy who doesn't care so much if innocent people get hurt along the way, he just wants to make sure that the mission is accomplished. There's a really great scene about midway through this movie that I don't want to talk about too much, but it's got this tiny little moment, this one shot, that really didn't need to be there, but they put it there anyway. You get this one shot of Cavill's character drawing his gun, and you know that he's ready to kill innocent people to get the team out of a sticky situation. But Ethan still tries to talk their way out of it, even though talking is the way riskier option. Things would be a lot easier and go a lot smoother if Ethan was willing to make some sacrifices for the greater good. But no, he's almost pathologically determined to ensure the best outcome for everyone. And ultimately, the movie kind of wraps up with a message all about this, which again, I wasn't really expecting to walk out of this movie with a message. But the message is, maybe Ethan is good at the job, specifically because he's such a good man. Which, yeah, is very Hollywood, and if you haven't seen the movie, it might sound pretty corny, but it's all down to the execution, and this movie did a shockingly good job of actually exploring these ideas throughout its runtime. Again, I don't want to make it sound like Mission Impossible Fallout is some kind of like high concept art film that's gonna make you rethink your life or whatever, but I still thought that it was worth talking about. This movie really pulled out all the stops on all fronts, and I wasn't expecting to be able to say that about the story and the script when I went into it, and that's deserving of recognition. It's nice when I leave a movie theater and think to myself, you know, I might actually remember what happened in that film a year from now. So thank you, Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise and everybody else. I was a little bit afraid that Fallout was gonna be the Spectre to Rogue Nation's Skyfall, but this movie exceeded basically all of my expectations. Don't wait too long to make another one, please. You are the generic action blockbuster's only hope. Though if Chris is too busy to do the next one, I won't turn my nose up at another Brad Bird movie. Come on, man, I know you're not making a Tomorrowland sequel.